Now let's try to create a form where you have many input fields. At the moment in the current sample, I will create 3 fields, that is first name, last name and mobile number. So let me just do that. I already have this input here. I'm going to copy this and paste one more text box. Let me also put a placeholder. I'm going to say placeholder is equal to this. I'm going to name as first name. Let me copy this and paste to the second one where I'm going to say last name, and another where I can just say mobile. Now let me just refresh. So you see that there is first name, last name and mobile. 3 fields are there. Now for example, I want to implement functionality where whatever data is entered, when I click on the submit, I just want to show it here at the bottom. Ideally, when the submit button is clicked or maybe on some other event, we may push the data on the server. But at the moment, we just want to take the data in states and then on click of submit, we just display at the bottom. So to display the data, the very first thing is we have to take state for every field. Now there are 2 ways to deal with states. Because you have 3 states here, or you may have more states, you can take state separately for every input field, or you can put all the states inside an object literal. At the moment, we are going to take a state for every input field. Remember, you take it as an object or you just use separate state for each input field. It doesn't affect the performance in big way if you choose any of the way. So now let me take the state for first name. I'm going to say first name, and also the setter function is equal to use state, and this is going to be a string. Alright, so we have the first name state. Similarly, let's take the last name and mobile state. So here I'm just going to change the value mobile and set mobile, same way, last name and set last name. So now we have 3 states. Next thing, because we are going to display the state value when we click the button, the submit button that is, let me also take one more state, and that I just give name data, and that I say set data. That also I keep a string. So now we have 4 states, and this data let me also display from the beginning like this. At the moment there is nothing. Let me just say data here, so we get the default value. Alright, now we have to configure the handler, that is the event handler for every field. I can write on change here, and I can write inline function, or I can have a separate handler. Let's have a separate handler. Ideally we choose separate handler only. So I'm just going to say first name handler. Now there will be an event object, the synthetic event, and set first name, where I'm just going to say e dot target dot value. Now let me copy this. So there will be a last name handler as well, and here also I'm going to say set last name, and we will have a mobile handler, mobile change handler. In fact, let me name that way, first name change handler, because we are going to have the on change event also. So this is more meaningful name. And here I'm just going to say set mobile, and it will set the target dot value. Alright, so this is how we configure all the event handlers. There can be multiple validations also. We can certainly reduce the number of lines, we can make it more concise, but we will see that gradually. In the first go, if I show you everything, it will be a little confusing. At the moment we just set this way. Now Let's also configure the onChange event. Let me bring this placeholder at the bottom. We arrange the code in a better way. Here I'm going to say onChange. What I want is the first name change handler. Let me bring this placeholder also on the next line. Now onChange, I'm going to call the last name change handler, and with mobile also onChange, I'm going to say mobile change handler. So now whenever we type, the state will be updated. And on submit, now let me just rename this function. Let's say show data. That makes more sense. And here also I'm going to say show data. And here we use the prevent default. After that I'm going to say set data. I just want to join the first name, and then let me put a comma. I'll say last name, again put a comma, and I just join the mobile just to view the state value, nothing else. Alright, so now we are done with the most of the coding. Let's have a look at it. I hope there is no issue and it executes the way we are expecting. Let me refresh this. In the first name, let me just give Nirmal. The last name is Joshi, and mobile number is, let's say, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9. Now let me click on this submit button. There you are. Now you see that the data is getting displayed. Now instead of these text boxes, we may have a checkbox, may have radio buttons, or we may have a drop down. In all the cases, the onChange event will be very handy, and certainly because we have used the prevent default on submit, it's not going to take its own action. In fact, it's not going to have the default behavior, and instead we just push the data on the server, or you do whatever you want to. But this is how you deal with multiple states. This is one example. Now the same thing can be written with object literal also, and there are few other ways as well to make it more concise that we are going to see in forthcoming lectures. Now let's talk about relative questions. The only relative question I put here is, I give you an exercise, that is, you create a form with multiple input fields and show the data on click of a submit button, and make sure that you take a separate state for each field and try to finish one exercise.